Hey guys, Adam here with AmericanMuscle.com, and today we're taking a closer look at listening to and installing the SLP Loudmouth catback exhaust for the 08 to 14 5.7 HEMI equipped Challengers. You should be checking this out for your own 5.7 if you're looking to ditch that factory restrictive and otherwise pretty quiet factory exhaust on your Challenger to pick up what is essentially a straight pipe, extremely loud, very aggressive, and enough to wake up your neighbors. This gets the 5 out of 5 on our loudness meter, as you just heard from our sound clips. The SLP Loudmouth is absolutely no joke. You're completely getting rid of your factory mufflers and you're not replacing them. Like I said, it's a straight pipe. We're right here at the back by your tailpipe tips. Other than that, you just have what is essentially a straight pipe resonator. Those will take the place of those factory resonators. You are completely unrestricted with 304 stainless steel and a 3-inch diameter tubing. We'll take a closer look at the diameter and of course the materials and construction, comparing it to the factory exhaust a little bit later on once I show you guys how to uninstall the factory exhaust. But as you heard from our sound clips, at idle, it is an extremely loud startup, especially at cold start, and it's enough to really wake up the 5.7. The sound of this thing is extremely deep, very loud, not super raspy, but it has a lot of tone. Once you get on the throttle at low to mid range, the thing gargles and backfires a little bit, especially on downshifts, and at wide open throttle, it's enough to wake the neighbors, like I said. If you wanted to pick this up, it comes in right around $600, right in that range. Pretty affordable when comparing it to some of the $1,000, $1,200 catbacks on the market. And that's simply because there's not a whole lot to it. It's a straight pipe, 3-inch diameter, high quality materials. I will say 304 stainless is the best you can get on the market. So if you're in the market for something that is some of the more premium materials while getting the absolute most volume you can out of your 5.7, this is arguably one of the loudest options in the category. Now, if you want to get this installed yourself, I'm going to give it a soft 2 out of 3 wrenches on our difficulty meter. It's not requiring any cutting, there's no drilling, no modifications, but it's a little bit more time consuming and requires a little bit more know-how than, say, a cold air intake. From here, guys, I want to show you how to remove that factory system. We'll talk about the comparison between the two, and then I'll show you how to install your new Loudmouth. Let's get to it. The tools used in this install include an impact gun, extension, 13 and 15 millimeter deep sockets, hanger removal tool, PB blaster or WD-40, and a mallet. Now, the first thing we're going to start with for the uninstall is popping off our factory tips. Those are going to be reinstalled later on with our new exhaust. So grab your 13 millimeter socket. You're just going to loosen up this band clamp here. Of course, you can grab some PB blaster to loosen it up here. All right, we're going to do the same thing for the other side. Use that 13 socket to loosen up that clamp. Okay, now our other side was welded on. This one's broken loose, so it should be a little easier to get that tip out of place. Once that's off, pop that off. Set these aside to be reinstalled later. The next step here, we're back by our factory H pipe. You want to grab your 15 millimeter socket, and we're going to loosen up these clamps around that H pipe as well. Once we get both sides loosened up, I'm going to put a pole jack underneath of that split H pipe portion just to hold it up in the air while we work on the hangers on the rest of the exhaust. So for now, grab that 15 and work these off. All right, so at this point, like I said, I'm going to put this pole jack up into place just to hold this end in. If you guys are working on the ground, a hydraulic jack does the trick. Jack stands are also a good idea. Whatever you can have just to hold this end up while you remove the other piece. At this point, we can disconnect these clamps, loosen up the H pipe, and get that disconnected from the opposite end of our stock exhaust. Next step here, we're actually going to use a hanger removal tool to pop our factory hangers out of the isolators on our frame. We're going to do that right behind the factory resonators toward the rear end. There's a couple different hangers we're going to have to do this on, so using this tool can definitely make a huge difference. If you struggle at all with these, you can use PB blaster or WD-40, some kind of lubricant. Just spray them on a little bit. You don't need too much, and that should help pop these out of place. All right, now instead of us removing the hanger from the isolator by the factory muffler, what we're gonna do is grab a 13mm socket and an extension and actually just remove the bolt holding the whole bracket to the frame. That way it's easier, we can just remove it off car instead of struggling above our heads here, especially a little easier for you guys working on the ground. So grab that 13 socket, remove that bolt, and that hanger will drop down. Save this bolt to reinstall later. We have to do this one more time for the front of the muffler by the exhaust tip. All right, now we can do the same thing, like I said, right by the exhaust tip. Now be careful because this whole thing will start to drop down, so you want to have one hand on it to make sure it doesn't drop right on you. All right, now we're doing the same thing for the other side. All right, at this point, we can remove the whole exhaust in one piece. My buddy Tony's here to help me out because it can be a little awkward since it all is still connected. I'm gonna remove our H-pipe and Tony's gonna help me out guiding this down. Well guys, we finally got our factory catback off of our 5.7 Challenger on the ground here sitting next to the SLP Loudmouth catback. There's a lot of things to talk about. There's a clear difference night and day between the two in both quality of the materials are made of, the way it's constructed, and overall what exactly comes in the kit. From the factory, you have that H-pipe styling that has a lot of kinks and curves in the way that the piping is laid. There's a lot of restriction in that mid-pipe. The H-pipe alone, when compared to an X-pipe, has a little bit more restriction, but the fact that this factory one has so many kinks just robs you of some of that power and sound. From there, you're moving down to your resonators, going all the way down with 2.5-inch tubing to your factory mufflers, which are absolutely massive, by the way. Tons of baffling, tons of restriction, really minimizing that sound. So the muscle car is really not just sounding like a muscle car with that factory exhaust. Taking a look at the SLP, night and day difference, like I said. You're going over to that X-pipe styling. Difference between the X-pipe and the H-pipe, well, by the names right away, you can tell that the H looks like an H. It's got a crossover pipe that does restrict and, kink up some of that power. The X-pipe is completely straight through. Both sides are connected. There's no bridge robbing you of that power and sound. So that's a really good upgrade. And by the way, this entire new SLP catback, 3-inch diameter tubing. Larger diameter, a lot more airflow, a little bit less back pressure because of the airflow going through and the larger diameter. With all of that, you're moving down to your new SLP resonators. These are essentially wide open resonators. You're not gonna have any more mufflers. As you can see down by our tips, there isn't another muffler replacement. You're keeping that factory resonator position, opening it up with absolutely no baffling, giving you a pretty much straight pipe design. You're straight piping your Challenger with this essentially. There's nothing blocking any of this sound, so expect exactly what the name suggests, a loudmouth exhaust. It's gonna be really loud, really aggressive, really raspy, I'd imagine, because of the straight pipe, but I would also imagine a lot of volume and a lot of tone. Moving forward from that, you're gonna see again 3-inch diameter tubing, so it's a little bit wider than the factory one. We're maintaining those factory hanger positions welded onto the exhaust. Moving down, and of course, we're gonna reuse the factory rectangular tips coming out of the rear, reusing that factory rear valance with the square rectangular cutouts. So not a lot to talk about when it comes to the tips, reusing those factory ones, but as you can see, big change here. Not moving anything over as far as muffler is concerned. That is just straight piping with the 3-inch diameter. So a lot of noise I'm expecting with this exhaust. As you heard from our sound clips, it's very raspy, very loud. And we'll talk about more of the install when it comes to this when we get to it. Before we can tackle all of that, one thing I do want to mention here, 304 stainless steel throughout. Very, very high quality exhaust materials, highest quality on the market as a matter of fact. Really good option for the guys out there in wintry weather areas like we are here on the East Coast. You see a lot of road salt and climate changes. Those 304 stainless steel exhausts, such as this one from SLP, holds up a lot longer than 409 stainless and especially longer than aluminized steel. That factory exhaust, just as you can see, there's not a lot of miles on our Challenger. It's a little beat up, a little worse for wear. This 304 stainless will just hold up a lot longer. It's got a lot higher quality. It's got a lot more corrosion and rust resistance. So 304 is the way to go if you're looking for top quality materials. Finally, we do have to transfer over those factory hanger brackets that we removed. I find it to be a lot easier just to unbolt those from the frame on our Challenger rather than fighting with PB Blaster and exhaust hanger removal tools. We did use that toward the back end here, or the middle section rather, but going above the mufflers, it's just a lot easier to unbolt it. We're gonna pop those off of the hangers now that it's off car. PB Blaster will probably use as well as the hanger tool now, but it's easier to do on the ground when it's not on the car. We'll transfer those over to these hangers here. It'll be a lot easier to bolt these back up to the frame once we're putting this exhaust into place on our Challenger, simply because we won't have that big exhaust bulkiness in the way, the whole muffler. So we have all new clamps provided in the kit. We don't need any of the factory ones. The only factory hardware we're reusing is the hanger brackets and the bolt that comes with that. So next step here, let's get those off, transfer them over to our new exhaust. Now we do have two factory brackets. We're only gonna pop this one off because we only have one on our new exhaust. So grab your hanger removal tool and we'll just pop this out of place. What you are gonna need to do as well is remove the clip on the end of it, but first we'll pop this out. There we go. Get that out of the tool. From here we can just pinch this off. Perfect. All right, now we can set this aside to be reinstalled on our new exhaust. Now we can repeat for the other side as well. All right, transferring it over to our new exhaust, just make sure you're putting them on the correct side. So it's gonna go on just like this. And if you need to, you can lubricate that, but it should just slide on if you rotate it a couple times. All right, now the same thing on the other side. We're actually gonna hit this with a little PB. Just makes life a little easier. Perfect. Now if you choose to do so, you could of course clip this onto the side here, but it's not really necessary. It's there, so we're just gonna use it. Now it's time to get this installed. First step, grab your SLP X pipe and the appropriate clamp size. Make sure that this is a snug fit over the end here. You don't want it to be too loose because there are larger ones in the kit. So once you have this put into place, do the same thing for the other side. Just make sure that the bolt head is facing downward so you can easily access it. We're going to slide this into position over your factory manifold pipes. So now I'm going to grab a mallet and just bang on the outside here to get this to sit into place. I'm going to seat them all the way back where your factory pipe was seated. Once you have that all the way back here, we're going to grab our 15mm socket and just tighten down this so it's nice and snug, but still leaving a little bit of room for adjustment. We don't want to tighten down our clamps through the entire system until we're all the way complete. That way we can adjust as we need. All right, nice and snug to hold that into place. Now we can move forward. Next step, we got our resonator here, and you want to make sure you're putting the appropriate size band clamp over the edge. The side with the slits is what you're going to install onto your X pipe. The opposite end here goes to your tailpipe tips. You want to make sure the band clamp is rotated downward so you can access the head of that bolt and slide it in just enough that it's covering the outlet. You don't want to push the X pipe into the inside of the resonator. You just want to put it to the edge of this outlet. You're going to slide that into place. You can also rotate it so the SLP logo is facing downward if you guys are picky about that. That's personal preference. Slide this band clamp to the edge, grab your 15 socket and tighten that down. Now again, you don't want to over tighten this, just get it nice and snug so it holds itself in place. We'll come back, making room for adjustment later on, and then we'll tighten it down. Same thing for the other resonator. Slide that into place. We have the clamp on the end there. Grab our 15 socket, get it nice and snug. Next step here, we have our tailpipe on our driver's side. You want to make sure you're hooking the hanger welded to your new pipe onto the factory hanger isolator on the frame, while also putting the inlet toward your mufflers or your resonators. We find that it actually might be a little easier for you guys, and of course this is personal preference, but if you pop this isolator off of the frame here and put this installed on your tailpipe first, it might be easier to bolt up to your resonator and then slide that onto the frame. Slide that clamp backward toward the resonator. We can tighten that down in just a second. First, we want to do the other bracket and bolt that back to the frame. From here, grab your extension and the 13 socket along with that factory bolt. Slide that through the bracket, lift this up into position. From here, like I said, we're just going to get this nice and snug. All right, repeat that for the other side. Just getting this factory isolator off of our frame here on the passenger side now to do the exact same thing. All right, at this point we can bolt up that factory bracket on the isolator. All right, now we can come back to our resonator and tighten these clamps down. All right, next step, we're gonna start on our driver's side for our clamps. You're gonna use your ball clamp provided in the kit. You might have to loosen it up a little bit just so it goes over top, along with your factory tip. Now these are side specific, so make sure you have the one with this indent on the inside. Grab your 13mm socket and you'll tighten these down. We're gonna align it and adjust it where we need it to, and then we can tighten them down. All right, do the same thing on the passenger side. Ball clamp on first, exhaust tip. Now go back and make any adjustments you need to align it properly and tighten down all of your clamps. Well guys, that's gonna wrap up my review, install, and sound clip review of the SLP Loudmouth catback exhaust for the 08 to 14 5.7 Challenger. If you wanna pick up this system, you can do so right here at AmericanMuscle.com.